afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome to this information session on Applied Social Data Analytics. It's a new master's programme run by the Department of Psychology at the University of Limerick. My name is Lynn O'Doherty, and I'm joined here with my colleague Sinead Liston from the Faculty Office, the course director of the programme, and people who teach on that programme, Dr. Srebrenka, Letina, Professor Mike Quayle, and Dr. Paul Marr. So without further ado, I'll pass you on to Pablo. Thank you so much.
Well, hello, everyone. First of all, you're very welcome to this webinar, to this session. Instead, we're joined by the whole team with Srebrenka, Mike, and Paul. We have been working this program for a while now and setting it up, putting it together. We're very excited to be here. I think it's great also that you get to see kind of the faces of the people who are kind of most closely involved with the new course. Yeah, basically, I do want to say, so we'll do like a presentation and some of us will speak in different parts. Hopefully that will work out well. Other than that, I'll move on to the next slide and leave my Quayle kind of give you a sense of kind of why we're doing this broadly.
Hi, folks. We're very excited about this. And I mean, you've probably noticed that we're living in a very weird time in human history. Over the past 50 years, digital technology, the internet, social media have changed the world, of course, but they've also produced enormous amounts of data about human activity, which give us an incredible new window into understanding a human society, culture, social psychology, how people interact together, how we coordinate our activities, and how to make sense of this weird, wonderful, crazy world we live in. And of course, this data is now being sucked into AI models. It's the basis of what we call artificial intelligence. Without this big data, we wouldn't have those models at all. And while this is like changing the world, it's also producing these incredible new opportunities for social science and for research and to try and understand the world we live in. And of course, we live in this time of history where we have these incredibly urgent challenges. We've got polarization, public health crises, climate change. I'm sure that none of you need any reminder of the challenges of the times we live in. And our department over the last couple of years, 10 years, has been building up investment and resources in working with big data and computational social science methods. And we've been figuring out some of the challenges and the opportunities and excitement of working with these new approaches. I've just got on the slide an example of some of that work. And this is one example of a wide variety of work being done in the department. But we've developed in our department a method called survey graph, which allows us to take large secondary survey data sets, like in this case, the American National Election Studies, and visualize them as networks. So in this case, the little dots, the nodes, are people, and the ties between them, or the edges, are the extent to which they've answered a set of items in the same way. So if you have a little line between two nodes here, it means that those two people have answered the questions in a very similar way. The American Democrats are blue and the American Republicans are red. And you can see in this particular set of items, in this particular survey in the year 2020, the Democrats had quite a high degree of connectivity, which means that they answered the survey in very much the same way, and the Republicans are sort of scattered around. And what we end up with from this asymmetrical relationship is social polarization, where the Democrats are quite synchronized in these things and the Republicans quite scattered. Now, you may not be interested in politics, You may be interested in other social issues. You might be interested in mental health, for example, or loneliness. But these kinds of methods give us this really interesting new window onto how these social dynamics operate and new ways of visualizing the way that people are connected together by their opinions. And of course, Srebrenka, for example, uses networks in a different way to analyze actual social connections between people, like friendships. But this is just to give you a sense of the variety of things we're doing in our department to use big data to give us this new window onto understanding social issues. So this new master's in social data analytics will link students into these methods and issues and provide students with a skill set and a set of resources to think about the world in these new ways, to apply these new methods for data analysis, and to position them with a skill set in this rapidly expanding field in the future. So anyway, that's my excited introduction to what we're doing. Back to you, Pablo.
Yeah, that's great. So look, as Mike was saying, right, this kind of availability of data, to put it one way, is something that has really kind of transformed, and it's relevant for social science overall, and it's obviously kind of using thoughts and ideas coming from, for example, graph theory in maths, right? So it is really an interdisciplinary field, and it has to be. And this master's, even though it's obviously it is based in the Department of Psychology, kind of we want to kind of have this kind of multiple kind of people from multiple backgrounds and multiple interests. And this certainly includes in the first place the students we're seeking to have. And so the idea is that if you're interested in kind of issues of social science, like my and kind of contemporary challenges, and you like this idea of this more innovative or kind of coding-based analysis, then this might be for you, right? And the main kind of purpose of this MSc, right, is to kind of train you in applying this type of innovative methods to this contemporary social phenomena. One thing I would add here is that the reason for this is precisely because of the complexity of the issues themselves. I think there was an imbalance in the more traditional kind of social science approaches and the complexity of the phenomena. And these kind of new techniques have allow us to try to tackle this complexity kind of more directly, right? The fact that kind of the things that are happening are interdependent, are complex, are kind of rely on multiple levels, and these levels are connected to each other. So rather than try to kind of discard that complexity and, in order to do the analysis, is precisely the idea is to tackle it. Right? You can imagine this is difficult, and therefore we have kind of the core of our, or the heart, let's say, of the program includes these two modules, and then the master's projects that I'll talk about later, which are precisely double modules, right? So they count for each of them. Data processing and visualization with R and network analysis kind of count for 2 in terms of credits. And that means that we have more lectures, seminars, more labs, right, and more time dedicated to this, because this is kind of where the main place where you'll be training kind of in these methods. We'll talk about these two kind of more specifically later, but for now the idea is that these are kind of our 2 very intensive modules, kind of, and they will include both the bigger discussion about the issues and the theories and the kind of how to tackle this complexity, as well as very kind of hands-on workshops and labs in terms of learning how to use this methodology. We also have, and we share this with our kind of MSc in psychological science, 2 modules that focus on more traditional, let's say, statistical approaches, which are still part of this bigger umbrella. And I would say especially advanced analysis 2 includes statistical methods that are indeed, you're unlikely to be familiar already with them, can be combined with some of the analysis we were talking about. And we do have electives. The idea is that each semester you choose 2 of these 3 possible electives. Just to talk about them broadly, we do have the first intro to data communications and advanced data storytelling are coming from the communications department. And they're really about kind of, okay, when you're talking about this kind of science communication or communicating with data, how do you approach that in terms of engaging a kind of a general audience, right? We also have in semester 1 initial programming coming from computer science. These are kind of key concepts in programming using Python. If you're interested in this, then this can certainly be kind of a very nice kind of broader introduction to the things we'll be using kind of with R, for example, in the module. Right? There is also, and this is kind of relatively new in the psychology department, a module on digital mental health, that I guess many people will be interested in that. And then in semester 2, there's networks and complex systems coming from maths, which can provide a very nice kind of a complement to our own module in network analysis. And professional skills in psychology 2, that's a very generic name for this is a module that is focusing specifically on oral presentations and kind of communication and in training, again, in a very kind of workshop style way, kind of your skills there. So hopefully this provides kind of an overarching kind of idea of what the program is. And I'll add then that is usually in our master's, right? We have a research project that it is in the summer semester, but this really the process in getting you there kind of starts before, and it's in the summer semester is the more kind of where you have kind of you can dedicate full time to finishing it up. But here you'll be paired with a supervisor, and you'll have start kind of earlier on in defining your research question and what area and what kind of methodologies to use, and will provide kind of as a program support, and your supervisor will provide kind of a specific support in getting you kind of doing this research project. All right, I want to talk a little bit about this. So I'll talk about this first module, data processing first, and then Srebrenka will tell you more about the network analysis module. So this, because it is on the first semester, right? It will kind of also work as the general introduction to the area, right? To the discipline. That means talking about these challenges, right? That Mike was mentioning at the start, and reading kind of relevant literature in terms of this. And also, again, we're going to assume kind of for the purposes of the program, though this might not be true, that we're going to start from 0 in terms of knowledge of R, for example, or programming. So from there, we'll kind of move relatively quickly because, again, we do have the time because it's a double module. In terms of getting you comfortable using R and coding kind of for data analysis. But again, even though there's a very much kind of a very concrete aspect to this in terms of how to get things done, throughout will be, for example, kind of discussing papers and showing you examples of research doing whatever it is we're doing at the moment, so that we never lose track of this idea that in this process, while you're analyzing data, you need to be thinking about the dynamics and the process you're analyzing, right? And trying to integrate that into your kind of workflow, let's say. So I thought I wanted to show you kind of a very simple example, and I remember this one from a book I really liked that is called Data Points Visualization That Means Something. This is kind of topic-wise a downer. This is a plot of hourly fatal crashes, so it's about fatal traffic accidents. And this is very simply kind of plotting over time how many traffic accidents there were and this hour, right, in a big kind of calendar format. The reason I'm showing you this, first of all, is that this is the kind of data that, okay, this is a lot of data, and it needs already to produce this some work, some processing, right? You might have, for example, if this was administrative data, this could be coming from a bunch of Excel files that you somehow need to process and put together. This could also come from just a column of kind of incidents with a timestamp, and you need to process that timestamp kind of to be able to do something with it, right? But there is a crafting doing that we need to learn, and even this visualization, I think, also shows something that is very applicable to any type of data analysis. There is this: how do you figure out what you're seeing here? How much of this is noise? How much of this actually means something, and it's signal, right? Because you see lines go up and down, right? There are more crashes, less crashes, and does that mean anything, right? A quick example just from here, you do see in some years, but not all years, a big line in the 1st of January, right? Which makes sense that there are more traffic accidents there. Some years this doesn't seem to be so clear. Some years this, and it's just as big as other dates later on, right? So in the book, Nathan Yao shows kind of this very simple kind of example, right, of aggregating now this data by time of day, where you see that, okay, in the evening there seems to be kind of an increase in accidents, same in the kind of on the weekend, right? And same kind of in terms of a year, there seems to be kind of a cycle here. And I think this is something that happens when you're analyzing data that is kind of very rewarding in a sense, and especially if you like doing this, that is kind of things that seem kind of to be completely noise are not always noise, right? There is some regularity there, but you need to kind of be able to find it in a way, right? And this is, I know, a very simple example, but hopefully you get the idea, right? And this is one example with basically data over time, right? You could imagine a similar kind of framework for data coming from a step counter in a health kind of in a fitness device, right? But there's also other kinds of data. Kind of analyzing text is an area that is very exciting to me, and in general, I think geographical data and potentially integrating kind of even time and movement there. Right? There are many other applications that we will cover also in this module. Right? Okay, so let's move on then to the network analysis with Srebrenka.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to tell you a few words about this second core module, which is network analysis. Now, network analysis can mean many different things, and this area of research is simply definitely one very useful package of theories and methods that help us tackle that complex world that Mike and Pablo were talking about. And that basically means that we are getting new ways at looking at the data and discovering and asking questions that we were not able to ask before because of these methods and these theories. And you will be able to learn this on this module. Now, this is a very complex area of research and very interdisciplinary, coming from mathematics and from sociology and many other fields. And we will try to join all those different lines in a way that is most appropriate for you, and so that you can learn and apply your own interests and using network analysis. And so what is going to be this about is that we are going to really get into understanding how we can use this idea of networks that we hear so much about. Like, networks are everywhere. What that really means for researchers. How can we use that to tackle new questions, to analyze the data, to do something new and something interesting? We definitely use it a lot, especially in today's time, and you will see many of those examples in this module. We will model social, but also other systems as networks. For example, here on this picture, you can see a network where nodes are not people, so the circles are not people, but they're actually different mental health disorders, for example, and the ties between them are not some friendships, but are actually the co-posting behaviors of 500,000 of Reddit users. And then this then allows us to know, for example, how people talk about mental health conditions, what they actually see as connected in their own minds. And behind this is very sophisticated statistics that allows us to do that. And you will be able to learn how to use this data and construct networks, and then do some further analysis to answer some more exciting and interesting questions. So, you know, network analysis actually covers many different types of methods, and we will try to address the most relevant ones, how to describe a network with centralities and community detections. But what is going to really be the gist and the main contribution is that you will be able to use statistical methods that are created specifically for network data. And that's a very different type of statistics, but we will teach you in a way that you will be able to understand it and apply it without being necessarily, you know, a mathematician or a statistician. And obviously we will use R and many different packages that have been developed there to read the network, to visualize the network, to describe the network, and then statistically analyze it and infer something from it. You will have an individual empirical project where you're going to apply the methods to some real data, and hopefully you will see how these methods is very applicable. It has no home when it comes to discipline. Its home is the whole world and all science fields. So you will be able to maybe a bit cross over with your interest, not only psychology, but sociology and other related social sciences. And to give you another example of networks, maybe more intuitive, it's about social networks. And for social networks, for instance, on the next slide, you can see here many networks, and they are social in a sense that the circles you see represent people, and the lines that you see represent some type of relationship, in this case, friendship in schools. But it can also be collaboration in the workplace or anything really that has some defined context. And then you can see how there are several networks here from different schools, and they also have different color. That's basically taking into account which network analysis can, the attributes or characteristics of individuals. In this case, it's gender. So then we can look at these networks and we can describe them and quantify them. And then you could see on the previous slide, different colors were addressing different gender, and then that can give us an idea how much girls are friends with other girls versus boys and so on. And we can quantify and test this statistically to answer some interesting research questions. And then if you zoom in one of the networks, for example, you can see that we can go even deeper. We can then search for the communities in the network, which is a method that allows you to look at the more connected parts, and then see whether regarding some relevant outcome for individual, let's say in this case is mental well-being, whether there is a bigger similarity between those people who share the same group. And you can see different groups here colored differently. And you can also maybe see just by looking at it that there is a bit of a relationship that people with more dark, or that would be worse well-being, have tendency to belong to the similar group, for instance, and we will be able to test these things statistically and answer whether that really is the case more than we would expect by chance. So to continue about this project, this program in general, is obviously you wonder where you're going to go after this. And there are really many pathways. Analysts are very searched for instance, in non-governmental organizations, especially very much in healthcare due to this expansion of data that health sector is dealing with. Obviously, in tech sector, you have more chances to maybe proceed down that line, or the social policy analysis and evaluation. Possibly strategy development would be one as well, especially used for maybe if you are interested in doing your PhD, possibly in any of the science field, but then coming with these new methods and these new theories and this new way of seeing the world, which is far more realistic and allows for many interesting questions. And even like maybe in some more data science PhD programs. So this should equip you really well to be a good candidate for many different things and PhD programs. So finally, but it's probably the first question that you have in your mind is what are the entry requirements? And you can see a list here, but you can also go to the link that you can see on this slide, where you can find out all of that we have been saying. As we repeatedly said, many different students from different disciplines are welcomed. No prior coding experience is required. Obviously, that's an advantage and it's desirable, but it's not required. And recognition of prior learning is accepted. And obviously, international applicants are very, very welcome. Now, if you have any further questions, you can ask Pablo directly by writing to him, and you are definitely encouraged to apply. You know, it's always smart to apply as soon as you can. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. And we are really looking forward to have you here and to start this very exciting program and to broaden your horizon and your ways. You see the world and research.
The last thing I do want to say is that if you think of a question later, send me an email. And obviously, I'd be happy to reply or even meet you for a few minutes and we can chat, of course.
Yeah, and you're very welcome to contact any of us involved in the program, and we'd be delighted to chat to you about, you know, is it appropriate or what kind of opportunities it might bring or what kind of research you might do while you're here with us. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.